Hello guys, we started our weekly GraphQL sync up. And first update from my side, according to our general updates, our important pull requests, and some our issues and blockers. I share my screen. So first of all, by the way, our status, we published our status each week on our dev blog. So we became more transparent and anybody can read our status and we are going to do this each week. So let's start from our blockers and issues. During this week, we merged pull request with small image URL. And if you remember, I talked about that this pull request contains some changes in benchmark. During the merge this pull request to mainline, we had got a few new issues related to our performance build, but all of these issues were resolved and this pull request already merged to mainline. It's important for us because a few pull requests was blocked with this functionality. And this pull request marked as special achievement because it was important for us. Next, our issue, our blockers was about adding simple product to cart. Now we finished this functionality and started with this pull request, merge in progress. We are waiting queue to merge in mainline. And I believe I merge it maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And it's pull request important for us because we consider it as example how to work with another types of products. And for example, Eugene Shabanov picked up task with configurable task. And if I don't mistake, somebody from community also picked up a downloadable product. And now we have clear prototype how to work with this. And last of our blockers issue is related to problem with B2B, with bad test isolation. And now I am working on this pull request, but still not have some green builds. Next updates, it's about our action point. We had meeting with guys from community engineering team, and we decided to include our architectural repository in our points, programs, our points. If you don't know, we have absolutely open architecture repository, and now anybody could not only contribute some code, but also share his ideas, some architecture changes. And yes, of course, for all of these pull requests, we will provide some additional contribution points. But we still need to think about how many points, because, for example, if it is big pull request with some big changes, with some big architecture changes, it should be appreciated in more points. So now we have only one open question. It's about count of points, how much points we need to provide for this pull request. But I think Yaroslav asked about this possibility last week, and I think we will start this program from next week. So, and finally, interesting open discussions. At last week, Alex Prerush created a proposal for adding shipping billing addresses to shopping cart, and Yaroslav, Rogoza, and Rogoza Boiko started work on this pull request, on this prototype at hackathon. And we also marked this pull request as complex because it will be some example for another task. It's some base way. So Yaroslav, I think you will share more information about it.
Yeah, hey guys, let me share my screen. So as well as said, during the last week, we worked on the quote functionality, particularly on adding shipping address, billing address, and setting shipping methods on the quote. Also, we have provided a prototype for getting available shipping methods on current shipping card. So we're still working on the prototypes, but it's only the beginning. And during providing this prototype, so we also introduced like a basic concept of the schema for working with these actions. Actually, this concept has been developed earlier, but we have just improved it, added some new points and removed the old one. So yeah, and we met one difficulty implementing the logic for quote. It's a possibility to use a single address like checkout or multi-shipping checkout. And the main problem is, if you look at this schema, the main idea of this schema is to have a transparent entry points for working with multi-shipping and with single shipping cases. But actually, we're still not sure the best way to implement it, because as you can see, if we will make it transparent on this level, and if we will use multi-shipping for handling all addresses, no matter we have one address for quote or multiple addresses, it's not effective way, because the multi-shipping functionality is very complex, and it doesn't make sense to use it for the single shipping. So the single shipping case, because in most cases we will have the single shipping. Yeah, that's the point for discussion about the best way to implement it. So the ideas were we can leave it as it is. So we can use, for example, on this query, we can set shipping addresses on card. So it will be the single entry point, and if we provide just one address, we will detect it on the resolver level, and then we will decide what to use. If we have only one address, we will use the single shipping flow, and if we have multiple addresses, we will use the multi-shipping functionality. But yeah, that's the one case. It's not like very transparent, but we at least will have this schema more or less optimized. The second way is to provide two different types of entry points, separate group for single shipping and a separate group for multi-shipping. And in that way, we will have more entry points, but we will not have a lot of complex logic in our resolvers. So that's the point of discussion. We discussed briefly with Valera yesterday these possibilities, but we want more insight from community. And I believe the next step is to improve this schema according to our decision. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. We here internally talked about kind of similar possibilities. I don't exactly remember if we 100% settled on one, but we talked about similar options, having either different entry points with simpler logic, or just use one common one, and then kind of under the covers have more complicated logic that routes either the simple way or the multi-shipping logic. So if schema works out to a common set of fields, maybe one entry point makes sense. But I suggest, since you guys are actively working on this, let's have maybe a one-off meeting to discuss, and then whoever is interested can participate. I'll probably organize it through Slack, if that's okay. Do you guys think it makes sense to have a one-off on this subject?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to discuss these possibilities, and I believe some of our guys will join as well, because we are working on that together.
Okay, great. Let me take the action item of scheduling it. I know, so Alex, our architect here, is out this week, so I'll probably schedule for early next week so we can get together and talk this through. But yeah, this is great. Maybe one more question I have about this. You guys said that you made certain changes to the schema. Were you guys using the schema suggested or proposed by Alex as the base?
Yeah, that's right. We have used this schema, and there were some not mistakes, but there were some points missing. For example, all the mutations were in the query section for some reason, and some data types not correspond to the real one. So we can change it. And also one more change we have provided, we added card ID to the input, because we have all mutations, all operations related to the quote, to the shopping cart with card ID, for example, adding coupons or products or whatever. So we have added the card ID here as well, here and everywhere for the input.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, and the changes that you guys are proposing, are you guys making comments on that copy, like the proposed schema by Alex, or do you have your own? I just want to make sure that we have all the feedback kind of in one place, you know?
Yeah. Actually, we thought to create a separate pull request for the schema proposal, but after the announcement from Valera, I believe we can make a pull request to the repository with the architecture. Maybe it makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So you guys can either do that or leave comments, but I understand in the interest of I guess rewards and other things that you can do it via pull request. So if you guys want to do that this week, maybe we can also discuss that on the call early next week, so that we can kind of quickly consolidate and come to a decision.
Okay, great, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for working on this. This is great.
Also, we had one question about return parameter of card. Do we need to return card as output if we set shipping address, if I did mistake? Do we need to return card object if we set billing address or set shipping addresses? I don't know, maybe it was some first prototype, or maybe we have some reason to return full card if we set only some address.
I think it was done out of assumptions that would be like if we always return cart whenever we make modifications to it, it becomes easier on the client to deal with it. But you know, I guess that's a point up for discussion. I think it was done intentionally, but based on just certain assumptions. If we have reasons to change it, let's discuss those as well.
Yeah, I can clarify the question. So yeah, for example, it's not correct. It was cart as well. It's just temporary change. So for example, we need, according to this schema, we need to return cart after setting a shipping method on this shopping cart. But in some cases, we have only address ID, for example, and quote ID, and we can set the shipping method without getting the address information. But if we check the cart object here, we need to return addresses, in this case, all this data, but we might not have this data inside of resolver. So we need to get this data additionally. And that was the main concern.
I see. Does it make sense to have some sort of a helper function or something that helps you fetch all the fields based on an address ID?
Yeah, that's possible. We can create a separate helper or something for this purpose, but I'm not sure from the performance perspective if we need to get the address data. So if we only need ID for our resolver, so it will be much slower in this case. So we need to set something, and then we need to get data from the database to return it, but we don't work with this data directly. So that's not very clear.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It's a good point. I know when we looked at the current version of checkout, sometimes they, in certain flows, and I forget now which ones they are, but even when you provide, under the covers, we provided address IDs, it still went and sent all of the fields anyway in some of the flows. So it was probably not ideally optimized, but here in GraphQL we can do, this is not necessarily grounded in any sort of current implementation. We should make it in the best possible way that we know, for the future. So we don't have to be tied to any current implementation here.
Okay, great, thank you. So no more questions from my side.
So generally, I will prepare some agenda for our grooming, because looks like we have 3 questions, and we will make some meeting next week. Maybe it makes sense to record this meeting also.
Yeah, agreed.
So and final update from my side. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 new pull requests created during this week, and I'm going to review this pull request. But I have only one advice: if you see that you have red build, static, so on, please don't need to waiting for review. You can't check fix this build before reviewing, because it needs to finish it anyway. General looks like that's all. Maybe questions?
Don't think so. Sounds like that's it for this week.
Okay, thank you guys.
Awesome. Good work. Appreciate you guys. Let's talk next week.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.